Brookfield Zoo, and today I'm going to tell you guys some stuff about the animals at the swamp we have here. The first animals we're going to talk about are Orinoco crocodiles. This is Carlita and Buttercup. Carlita is the big one with her mouth open, and Buttercup's the little one. We get a lot of questions about why they have their mouths open like that sometimes, and the reason they do that is to let out heat. It's like our version of sweating, so that's the reason why they open their mouths like that. The Orinoco crocodile is actually the largest crocodile in the New World. They're not the longest, but they're the biggest, the heaviest. Males can hit 800 to 850 pounds, sometimes up to 1,000. These are two sisters, they're girls. They were born in 2008 at Dallas World Aquarium. And they're still pretty small actually right now. They're about, the big one is about 7 feet long. She probably weighs 160, 170 pounds. Full grown, she could hit 14 feet long and weigh around 450 pounds. So they're pretty cool. You guys should come and check them out when you get a chance. They'll be here. So next we're going to take you to another tank we have, and we're going to take a look at some of the frogs we have and some turtles we have in the area. So in this tank, if you can see them up here, we have a Borneo eared frog, which is a really cool frog, and they're cool because of their reproduction. They actually will build a big foam nest on a branch above a pool, and it can actually be sometimes a couple meters above the water. Then when the tadpoles finally hatch from the eggs in the foam, they chew their way out of the foam and then drop into the water and continue to be a tadpole until they metamorph into a frog. But one neat thing about them is, let's say a predator starts chewing on the foam nest, what can happen is the tadpoles will hatch prematurely, eat their way out, and drop into the water before they're supposed to, just to get away from the predator. Another species we have in here are the black-breasted leaf turtles, which are a really cool turtle. They're pretty endangered. So I can get this open. And they got tons of personality. So this is our male leaf turtle, and everyone loves him because of those giant eyes he has. He pretty much looks like he's an owl, and he's super food motivated. So every time you open the tank, he thinks food's coming, so he comes running right over to see you. Luckily for us, we've actually bred these guys already, and we actually have his kid right over here. We'll show you. So this is one of the eggs that we hatched. This is his little turtle. And you can see on the black belly, that's where they get the name black-breasted leaf belly. But this guy's 11 months old, full grown. They get around 4.5, 5 inches. One of the reasons why they're so endangered is because the female, not one of the reasons, but the females usually only lay 1 or 2 eggs. So it's actually pretty hard for them to get their numbers back up. And then they get the leaf name because of all the shredding on the shell, which is just a very unique looking thing. But they're a really cool little turtle. These guys in the wild, they eat bugs. They'll eat some leafies and vegetables or fruits that they can find here and there, but they're mostly going after like worms and other little bugs. And this is actually one of my favorites. This is the Vietnamese leaf frog, and I'll be taking them out so you guys can see them. These are actually one of the most cryptic animals I've ever seen. If you'll open his eyes, you'll see that even his eyes are camouflaged. Yeah, see that? Is that not one of the coolest things in the world? One cool thing about these guys, they lay their eggs actually kind of like those guys, right above the water line. They don't make a foam nest or anything, but they lay their eggs above the water line so that the fish can't eat the eggs. And then the tadpoles will hatch and then drop into the water. But these guys are just super beautiful, and they are a tree frog. And tree frogs actually stick to the glass by suction cups. When geckos, on the other hand, have tiny little hairs on their feet, and that's how they stick to things. All right, so then we're going to move over, and we're going to see our big male false water cobra. He's about 6.5, 7 feet long. He weighs around 11 pounds, so that's pretty close to full grown. He's not a real cobra, though. He gets the name false water cobra because he can actually hood like a cobra. His neck stretches out. But he's actually what's called a rear fang snake. So the venomous snakes that we think of, like rattlesnakes and cobras, they have hollow fangs in the front of their mouth. And when they bite, they inject venom, almost like a doctor's needle. This guy doesn't do that. He actually has 2 large teeth in the back of his mouth, and he chews on his prey, and he punches big holes. And the venom's in his saliva, so that he hopes that the venom gets into some of the big holes, and that's how his venom works. Ounce for ounce, he's about as venomous as a copperhead or a cottonmouth or the water moccasin, same snake. But again, he's got to chew on you for a while for that to happen. That doesn't mean that rear fang snakes aren't dangerous. The boom sling from Africa is a rear fang snake, and I think it's the top 10 deadliest snakes in Africa. So that's one thing you still got to watch out for. But again, he's not a cobra, and another reason why he's not a cobra is because he's from the Americas, South America. Real cobras are all old world. They all come from Asia or Africa. So again, that's why he's not a real cobra.
A quick question. What kind of frog was that green frog that we just saw?
That was called a Vietnamese mossy frog.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, very, very cool little frog.
Vietnamese mossy frog.
So now we're coming to our Caecilians. Caecilians are another species. They're actually an amphibian. A lot of people think they're eels or snakes, but they're not. They're an amphibian like a frog or a salamander. They just don't have any legs. But they got some pretty unique traits too. So a lot of species, when they either lay eggs or give live birth, but a lot of the species that lay eggs, the mom stays with the eggs. And then when the babies hatch, the babies can stay for a couple months up with mom. And they were always trying to figure out what was going on. What's actually happening is she's feeding them. They're actually eating her skin. They didn't know for a while what was going on, but they're actually eating her skin. They actually have specialized teeth when they're babies that help actually pull the skin up without damaging the skin underneath it so that they can eat it. So that's actually a pretty cool thing to think of. And then some species that actually give live birth, the babies start eating mom when they're still inside of her and then come out and keep eating her. So they're actually a pretty unique, amazing animal. They have pretty poor eyesight. They usually navigate mostly by smell. This is an aquatic species. Most species actually live on land and they burrow under the ground, but this is one of the few aquatic species that we have. So now we're going to go over and look at some of our newts. So in here we have our Kaiser newts, which is a really, really cool, pretty newt. These guys are new. They just came on display about a month before everything got closed down because of COVID. But one cool thing about these guys is they're Iranian. A lot of people don't think Iran when they think salamanders, newts, because there's so much desert, but they come from the Zagros mountain region of northern Iran, which is pretty cool. And if you guys want, I got one right here. Let's come over here to the light so you can see better. And you can get a really good look at how beautiful this is, that bright orange. Now the reason why he has such bright colors is usually to show predators, don't eat me, I have some kind of toxin, I taste bad, or I might even kill you. I don't know exactly how toxic these guys are, but I assume they are. But they're very pretty. Now this is a newt. Now a lot of people ask what is the difference between newts and salamanders. Well, the thing is, all newts are salamanders, but not all salamanders are newts. So like, a lollipop's a sucker, but not all suckers are lollipops. One of the differences between newts is they usually have rougher skin. They're usually brightly colored because they have more toxins. They usually go through a F stage, which is when they come out from being a nymph, then they live on land, then they come back to the water. So that's the main differences between the newts and the salamanders. And then here, it'd be hard to see, but we have the Chinese giant salamanders. These are one of the largest species of salamanders in the world. They can get up to 5 feet 9 inches long. I think it's the biggest one on record, weigh around 100, 110 pounds. These guys actually used to be pretty common in the wild back in the day in China, but because of habitat destruction and then they're actually eaten too on the markets, their numbers have gone way, way down. These guys we've had for about 3 years. They came in, so they're probably around 3.5 years old. They'll become sexually mature around 5 to 7 years of age. And then we'll be able to tell if they're a boy or a girl right now. We don't know if they are either of those yet, so we have to wait for that. But they're a really cool salamander. They're really endangered, and it's pretty awesome to have those guys here.
Just a question about who designs the exhibits?
A lot of times it's the keepers. We'll get together usually with a couple of us depending on what animals it is, and we'll decide what the best way to keep them, like how to have the habitat, the right temperature and stuff like that. And then some of our keepers are actually really, really amazing at designing naturalistic habitats, and usually they'll take the lead on that after we get all the other parameters like temperature, lighting, water flow if they're in the water, filtration done. Then other keepers we have usually will come in and set up the tank to make it look as naturalistic as possible. All right, folks, well, thank you for coming. Hope to see you guys here soon when we reopen, and everybody stay safe out there.